All right, let's dive into the world of chess. We got some really interesting articles and research to go through today, and I'm excited to explore it all with our expert. We're going to uncover the game's history, some of its biggest legends, and even see how it's linked to AI and cognitive science.
Yeah, chess is like a mirror of human thought and strategy evolving over centuries. It's a fascinating journey from ancient war simulations to modern AI with a lot of great stories and characters in between.
Okay, so let's start with history. Our sources say chess goes all the way back to 6th century India, where it started as chaturanga. And it wasn't just a game, it was actually used to, like, simulate war, right?
Yeah, exactly. The pieces represented different military units like infantry, cavalry, elephants, chariots. You can imagine generals using chaturanga to plan battles, test strategies, try to anticipate their opponent's moves.
It's kind of like those real-time strategy games we have now, but analog. So then chaturanga spread to Persia and became shatranj, and eventually it made its way to Europe by the 10th century.
And Europe made some huge changes to the game in the 15th century, turning it into the chess we know today. The queen, which used to be pretty weak, got the power to move across the board in any direction, making her the strongest piece. It's interesting to think about how that change might reflect the growing influence of powerful women in European society at the time.
Yeah, that's a great point. Europe also changed how pawns moved, letting them go 2 squares forward on their first move. These changes really sped up the game and made it more dynamic.
Absolutely, and it set the stage for chess to change from a war simulation into a competitive sport. The first official chess tournament was in London in 1851, and just a few years later, in 1886, we had the first World Chess Championship. Wilhelm Steinitz won that one.
From war rooms to global championships, wow, what a journey. And then, in the 20th century, chess took another leap forward with that famous match between Garry Kasparov and IBM's Deep Blue computer in 1997.
That match was a huge deal. It really captured the public's imagination, showed everyone the power of AI. For a lot of people, Deep Blue beating Kasparov, who was the world champion, was a turning point in our relationship with machines. It made people question things like the nature of intelligence, what it means to be human in this age of increasingly sophisticated technology.
It really gets you thinking about the future, huh? But before we go too far down that road, let's talk about the human side of chess. The players who've shaped the game with their talent and passion.
Ah, yes, the titans of chess. So many interesting characters, each with their own style and contributions. Maybe we should start with Garry Kasparov, the guy who played against Deep Blue.
Kasparov was a force of nature.
Mm.
He held the world championship title for 15 years, longer than anyone else.
He was known for his aggressive style, always on the attack, pushing his opponents to their limits. His games were full of dynamic sacrifices, bold moves, really reflected his personality on and off the board.
And then there's Magnus Carlsen, the current world champion.
Yeah.
His style is so different from Kasparov's.
Carlsen is all about strategy, known for his deep understanding of positions. It's like he can see the whole board several moves ahead. He anticipates his opponent's plans and subtly maneuvers his pieces into good positions. He's also really strong in the endgame, often squeezing victories out of positions that look like draws.
Almost like a boa constrictor, slowly suffocating his opponents. But for a lot of people, the most legendary figure in chess will always be Bobby Fischer, the American prodigy who took on the whole Soviet chess system during the Cold War.
Fischer's story is amazing. When he won the 1972 World Chess Championship against Boris Spassky, it was like a symbolic victory of the West over the Soviet Union. It really captured the world's attention at a time of intense political rivalry.
A true clash of ideologies, a battle of minds that went beyond the chessboard. Fischer's genius, his unusual style, and his strong independence made him an icon. It's just, well, his later years were marked by some controversy and seclusion, which makes his story even more complex.
Definitely. Fischer's life shows how genius, ambition, and the pressure of fame can all be intertwined. But, there are lots of other legendary players who've shaped the way chess is played.
Players like Jose Raul Capablanca, known for his natural talent and smooth playing style. He made it look so easy, almost effortless, like the best moves just flowed from his mind.
Capablanca was a master of the endgame and could simplify even the most complicated positions, a true artist on the chessboard. And then we have Mikhail Tal, the magician from Riga, famous for his daring sacrifices and unpredictable attacks.
Tal was a risk-taker, a real gambler on the chessboard. He'd often sacrifice material just to create chaos, relying on his intuition and tactical brilliance to outwit his opponents. People loved him because he played with such flair and creativity.
Each of these players, in their own way, pushed the boundaries of chess, introduced new ideas, inspired generations of players. But their brilliance wasn't just individual talent, it was also showcased in the incredible games they played. Games that became part of chess history, studied and analyzed by players all over the world.
That's true. And speaking of legendary games, are you ready to dive into some of the most famous chess matches in history? Games that changed the way people thought about chess strategy and left audiences speechless.
Yeah, let's do it. You can't talk about legendary chess games without mentioning the Immortal game played in 1851 between Adolf Anderssen and Lionel Kieseritzky. This game is a perfect example of the audacity and beauty that's possible in chess.
The Immortal Game is famous for Anderson's incredible sacrifices. He gave up almost all of his pieces, both rooks, a bishop, even his queen, and he still won with a checkmate.
It's a game that people still study today because of its tactical brilliance and beauty. Most players would never even think of sacrificing the queen, the most powerful piece. But Anderson saw the opportunity, calculated the variations precisely, and just went for it. He created a masterpiece that stood the test of time.
It shows you that in chess, just like in life, sometimes you have to let go of something precious to achieve something really extraordinary.
Okay.
Then there's the game of the century from 1956, played by a 13-year-old Bobby Fischer against Donald Byrne.
This game is amazing, not just for its brilliance, but also because of how young Fischer was. At just 13 years old, he played with such maturity and strategic depth that he stunned the chess world. His queen sacrifice, which has become super famous, led to a brilliant endgame and a huge victory.
It's hard to imagine a 13-year-old having the vision and courage to pull off a move like that. No wonder he became a legend.
Yeah.
And speaking of Kasparov, we can't forget his Bulgarian Immortal game from 1999 against Veselin Topalov.
That one's a modern classic. It showcases Kasparov's aggressive style and tactical brilliance. He launched a devastating attack that ended with a stunning rook sacrifice and forced a checkmate.
These games aren't just competitions. They're like works of art, expressions of strategic brilliance, creativity, and human ingenuity. They show how chess can be both a science, with its intricate calculations and principles, and an art, with its moments of beauty and inspiration.
They give you a glimpse into the minds of chess masters, showing how they think, how they anticipate their opponent's moves, and their willingness to take calculated risks. These games are still studied and analyzed today, and they offer valuable lessons for players of all levels.
So we've traveled through the history of chess, met some of its greatest players, and witnessed some incredible moments of brilliance on the board. But I'm curious, what actually makes a chess game good in terms of strategy? I know there are specific principles and concepts that go beyond just moving pieces around.
You're right, there's a lot more to it than just moving pieces. To really understand chess, you need to delve into the strategic foundations that underpin every game, openings and endgames. These are the phases that set the tone and often determine the outcome of a match.
That sounds like the perfect place to pick up in part 2 of our deep dive. We'll explore the world of chess openings, from the classic Ruy Lopez to the aggressive Sicilian defense, and then we'll get into the intricacies of endgames, where every move is crucial. Stay tuned. Okay, so as we were talking about before, to really understand how strategically deep chess is, we need to look at the foundations of the game. Openings and endgames, those are the big ones, right?
Right. Openings are like the first act of a play. They set the scene for all the battles that are going to come.
So you're not just like moving your pieces out there randomly.
Nope, not at all. There are literally hundreds of recognized openings, each with its own character, its own goals. Some are about attacking quickly, others are about slow positional maneuvering.
Our sources mention a few famous ones, like the Ruy Lopez, the Sicilian defense, and, of course, the Queen's Gambit. Let's start with the Ruy Lopez. That sounds like a classic.
The Ruy Lopez, also known as the Spanish game, is one of the oldest and most studied openings in chess history. It's basically a fight for the center of the board, where white tries to develop their pieces to limit black's options.
It's more of a strategic opening, focusing on long-term plans rather than immediate attacks.
Exactly. The Ruy Lopez often leads to these complex positions where both sides have to think several moves ahead. To give you an idea, imagine white opening with the moves. 1. E4, E5-2, NF3, NC6-3, BB5. This immediately puts pressure on black's E5 pawn and aims to control the center. Black can respond in different ways, but the most common is 3.A6, preparing to challenge white's bishop.
Sounds like a subtle back and forth, lots of maneuvering and counter-maneuvering.
Exactly. And that's what makes the Ruy Lopez so fascinating. It's a game of patience, planning, and real strategic depth.
What about players who like to be more aggressive, though? What kind of opening would they choose?
For those who want to attack right from the start, there's the Sicilian defense.
Sicilian defense, tell me more about that one.
The Sicilian's a favorite among attacking players. It's known for being really sharp and challenging. It starts after white opens with 1e4 and black responds with 1.c5. This immediately throws the position off balance, making for dynamic, unpredictable games.
So in a way, it's like the opposite of the Ruy Lopez.
In many ways, yes. The Sicilian's about creating chaos, taking advantage of weaknesses, and launching direct attacks. Players like Fischer and Garry Kasparov, they were known for their mastery of the Sicilian. They used it to unleash their aggressive style.
I can see why it would appeal to players who like to take risks and create those dynamic positions. And of course, we've got to talk about the Queen's Gambit. The Netflix series really made that one famous.
Yeah, the Queen's Gambit definitely caught the public's attention. It's a strategic opening where white sacrifices a pawn early on to gain control of the center and develop their pieces faster.
It's not just a made-up thing for the show, it's an actual chess opening with a history.
Absolutely. The Queen's Gambit has been played for centuries. It's known for leading to these really complex and strategic games. The Netflix show, well, they did take some liberties, but they did a good job showing the strategic thinking and the psychological tension involved in chess.
I think it's great that a show like that could bring so much new interest to the game.
I agree. It just shows that chess still has this power to captivate and inspire people.
Okay, so we've covered some of the major openings. Let's move to the other end of the game now. Endgames. This is where things really get intense, right?
Absolutely. Endgames are like the last act of the play, the tension's building, and every single move matters so much. The board's less crowded, fewer pieces, and the possibilities are more limited.
So it's all about precision and calculation at that point.
Exactly. In endgames, you need to really understand pawn structures, how active your king is, and essential techniques. Even a small advantage can turn into a win if you know how to use it.
Our sources talk about a couple of specific endgame techniques, the Lucena position and the Philidor position. Can you explain what those are?
Sure. The Lucena position is a classic rook and pawn endgame, where white has a rook and a pawn that's far advanced and protected by their king. The goal is to get that pawn promoted to a queen and win the game. There's a specific maneuver white can use to force the win, even if black's trying to block the pawn.
Could you give us, like, a visual how that would play out on the board?
Of course. Imagine white's pawn is on the a7 square, their rook's on h8, and their king's protecting the pawn. Black's king is just trying to stop the pawn from moving forward. White's winning maneuver is to move their rook to a8, then a1, and back to a8. This makes black's king move away from the pawn, opening a path for white's king to get closer and support the pawn's promotion.
It's like a delicate little dance, each side trying to outmaneuver the other.
Exactly. The Lucena position's a perfect example of how, even with just a few pieces left, chess can still be so complex and strategic.
And what about the Philidor position?
The Philidor position's a classic defensive technique in king and pawn endgames. It's named after François-André Daniken Philidor, an 18th century chess master. The position happens when black has a king and a pawn against white's king, and black's king can block the pawn from advancing.
So it's a way for black to get a draw, even though they're down a pawn.
Precisely. The Philidor position's like a fortress. Black uses their king to create a wall that white's king can't get through.
These endgame techniques are really interesting. It's amazing how chess can still be so intricate and challenging, even with just a few pieces left on the board.
It really shows the depth and complexity of the game. Mastering these techniques is so important for anyone who wants to be good at chess. They teach you how to turn small advantages into wins, how to defend when you're behind, and how to make the most of every position.
It's about recognizing patterns, calculating variations, understanding all those subtle little things in the endgame.
You got it. But what's really cool about chess is that it's relevant even outside of the game itself. It's not just about playing. It's a tool for personal growth and development.
And that's a perfect segue to our next topic, the wider impact of chess in the world today. Our sources talk about the cognitive benefits linked to playing chess. What can you tell us about that?
Well, more and more research is showing that playing chess can have a big impact on how our brains work. Studies have found that it can improve memory, boost problem-solving skills, and even make you more emotionally intelligent.
Emotionally intelligent. Now that's interesting. How does chess help with that?
Chess forces you to understand your opponent's psychology. You have to recognize their patterns, anticipate their moves, and learn to manage your own emotions during tough competitions. It teaches you to stay calm under pressure, to analyze things objectively, and to make smart decisions even when things are difficult.
Those are valuable skills no matter what you're doing, not just in chess.
Absolutely. And it's not just people saying it. There are actual examples of how chess is being used to improve people's thinking skills and educational outcomes.
Like how?
Lots of countries like Armenia, Russia, India, they've put chess into their schools to try to make students smarter and help them do better academically. There's even a study from Spain in 2022 that showed that playing chess led to a 15% improvement in math scores for students.
Wow, that's a big improvement. Seems like chess can really be a powerful tool for learning and brain development.
Yeah, definitely. Chess makes you think logically, plan ahead, recognize patterns, and solve problems in creative ways. These are all skills that can be applied to subjects like math, science, even language.
So we're talking about a game that could potentially make you smarter, more aware of your emotions, and better at math. It's no surprise chess has gotten so popular again in recent years.
That's true.
Uh-huh.
Online platforms like chess.com, which has over 150 million users, have made the game easier to access than ever before.
And we can't forget about Twitch streamers like Gotham Chess, who are bringing chess to a younger audience, making it cool and fun to watch.
They've created a whole online community where people can learn, compete, and connect over their shared passion for the game. And of course, there's the whole Queen's Gambit effect. That Netflix show caused a massive spike in interest in chess. Google searches for how to play chess went up by over 300%.
It's crazy to think that a fictional show about a chess prodigy could have such a huge real-world impact on the game.
It shows the power of storytelling, how it can spark people's curiosity and get them to try new things.
But chess goes even further. It's even showing up in places you wouldn't expect, like prisons.
Yeah, that's right. Some prisons have started chess programs to help rehabilitate inmates. The idea is that chess teaches them valuable life skills like patience, thinking strategically, and controlling their impulses.
That's a really fascinating way to use the game as a tool for personal growth and positive change.
It highlights the fact that chess is more than just a game. It's a tool for cognitive development, a way for people to connect socially, and a source of inspiration and creativity.
As we're looking at the impact of chess beyond the board, it's becoming clear that this old game has a really deep meaning in the world today. It's not just a hobby. It reflects our history, our culture, and how our relationship with technology is evolving.
It's true. Chess is this timeless activity that keeps challenging and inspiring us. It offers valuable lessons about strategy, psychology, and what it means to be human.
And speaking of being human, one thing that's really struck me in our conversation is how much chess can be seen as a metaphor for life itself.
That's a great point. People often describe chess as a little microcosm of life. Every decision has consequences.
You have to think ahead, plan your moves carefully, be ready to adapt when something unexpected happens.
It's about figuring out the balance between risks and rewards, understanding how important timing is, and learning from the mistakes you make. Just like in life, there are moments when you win and moments when you lose. But through it all, you got to keep your cool and keep working towards your goals.
Chess teaches you resilience, patience, and how to think clearly when things get tough. And probably most importantly, it teaches you to respect your opponent.
Even when you're competing intensely, there's a certain code of conduct, a mutual understanding of the challenge.
It's a battle of minds, but it's also like a dance, a conversation between two players, each one trying to outsmart the other. And when the game ends, win or lose, there's a handshake, a sign of respect for the shared experience.
Exactly. And that's a lesson we can all apply to our lives, whether we play chess or not. It's about valuing that intellectual sparring, engaging in challenges that help us grow and learn.
It's about enjoying the process, the journey of exploration and discovery, just as much the end result. And this brings me to a question for you, our listener. What's really stuck with you during our deep dive into chess? Have you ever played? What insights or perspectives have you gained from our conversation?
We'd love to hear what you think, what your experiences have been. Maybe you've been inspired to dig out that old chess set, or maybe you've just developed a new appreciation for the strategic brilliance of the game.
Whatever you've taken away from this, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep challenging yourself, and keep looking for those moments of intellectual stimulation and personal growth that make life so rich and rewarding.
And who knows, maybe we'll see you on the other side of the board someday, ready for a friendly match. Until then, keep your mind sharp and your strategies strong.
You know, it's really striking how much chess mirrors real life. as we've been talking about all these different aspects of the game.
Yeah, for sure. Every move you make has these.
And just like in life, you can never be totally sure what your opponent's going to do. You always got to be ready to adjust, adapt your plans as you go.
Absolutely. It's like this constant back and forth, this dance. You're trying to guess what your opponent will do while also sticking to your own game plan.
And it's not just about, winning or losing. It's about that process, the mental challenge, the feeling of satisfaction when you play a good game.
Totally agree. Even when you lose, there's so much you can learn. Figuring out your mistakes, where you went wrong, using that to get better. That's all part of it.
Reminds me of that T.S. Eliot quote, "We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time." Chess is kind of like that. You keep exploring, learning, pushing yourself, and you end up back at the basics, but with a much deeper understanding.
That's a beautiful way to put it. What's crazy is that even after centuries of people playing this game, we still don't know everything about chess.
That's true. With AI coming into play, chess engines like Stockfish and AlphaZero, we're constantly learning new stuff about the game, discovering new strategies, pushing the limits of what we thought was possible.
Those chess engines are amazing. The level they play at is just mind-blowing. They can calculate millions of variations in a second, see things that human players wouldn't even dream of.
It's like having a super smart chess partner, helping us see the game in a completely different way.
And it's changing how people play. Players are studying the games those engines play, trying to learn from their strategies and bring those insights into their own games.
It's this cool collaboration between human creativity and the precision of machines, and it's leading to some really innovative chess games.
Makes you wonder what the future holds, you know? Will we see teams of humans and AI working together, pushing chess to even greater levels of mastery?
That would be incredible. Just imagine the possibilities if humans and AI could team up, combine their strengths to create these groundbreaking chess strategies.
It's an exciting time to be into chess. It's more popular than ever, and the limits are always being tested.
And even as chess changes, the core of it stays the same. It's still a game of strategy, logic, creativity, this battle of minds that goes beyond language, culture, even time.
And it's still a source of fascination and joy for millions of people all over the world.
So, to wrap up our deep dive into chess, I want to leave you with this thought. Whether you're a master or just starting out, chess has something for everyone.
It's a journey of self-discovery, a challenge for your mind, an invitation to explore how strategically you can think.
So step up to the board, make your move, and embrace the beauty and complexity of chess, which has been around for so long. And hey, who knows? Maybe someday you'll be the one making chess history. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep your minds sharp and your strategies sound.